Next, we're going to welcome Dr. Laly Lichtenfeld, who is being honored with a Wings Women of Discovery Conservation Award as well. Dr. Lichtenfeld is co-founder of African People and Wildlife, which works alongside rural communities in Tanzania to both conserve and benefit from their wildlife and natural resources. Dr. Lichtenfeld specializes in wildlife conservation with a focus on lions and other big cats, community empowerment and engagement in natural resource management, and the development of conservation initiatives for rural people. Dr. Lichtenfeld is an invited member of Ngorongoro Conservation Area Authority Research Advisory Committee, a Distinguished Alumni of the Yale Tropical Resources Institute, a National Geographic Explorer, and a recipient of the 2016 Lowell Thomas Award for Open Space Conservation. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Lichtenfeld.
Thank you. It's an incredible honor to be here today. Thank you very much to the Wings Board and the membership. It's a true honor to be sitting here with these three incredible women who are just doing such amazing work in the world today. So thank you for this opportunity to share this space with you all as well. I'd also like to, of course, bring my entire team to all of you and to have them share in this honor today, but I can't do that. So let's go to Tanzania for a little bit. I want to introduce you to some of our team members and some of the wildlife and the communities that we work with this new short film about our work.
Africa represents our planet in some of the most phenomenal ways, with its incredible diversity of people, wildlife, and landscapes. I sense here that I'm part of something bigger than myself. In Tanzania, I'm constantly inspired and humbled by the connections between all things wild and human, but I'm also acutely aware of the delicate bonds between them. If we break them, we lose something that can never be replaced. We have a responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen.
Kabla ya African People and Wildlife, kulikuwa na migogoro baina ya watu na wanyama wakali hasa simba. Watu waliwaua simba kwa wingi na kuwatoesha moja kwa moja.
At African People and Wildlife, we are finding the balance for communities and nature. We are working to ensure that vital ecosystems and species endure for generations to come. A key part of that is the participation of local people, our key partners on the ground.
African People and Wildlife is a unique organization because we transcend the boundaries of conservation and community development. Where we work, the majority of the land is shared between people and wildlife. So we partner with local communities to ensure that every single one of our projects equally benefits people and wildlife, creating those powerful win-win scenarios.
Elimu, Gutahai, ukusanyaji matukio umewaletea wanyama kama simba, duma, mbwa mwitu kuongezeka katika vijiji vyetu na hata Tarangire.
In northern Tanzania, we've reduced livestock attacks by up to 90% at the Boma or cattle corral. And lions are now coming back.
Our team members are global leaders in community-driven conservation. Because we base 100% of our operations in the field, we become part of the community, a real resource and partner. Because we live among the people and emphasize hiring locally, our team members have a specialized knowledge of community wildlife dynamics. This is a key part of our success.
African People and Wildlife, together with local communities, we are restoring the vital habitats that are crucial for both people and the wildlife. Through our Sustainable Rangeland Initiative, community members are using innovative technology, data collection, and information sharing to conserve their grazing lands.
Asasi ya Watu na Wanyamapori inaunganisha ulinzi thabiti wa mazingira na kuboresha maisha ya wanajamii ili kutafuta uwiano baina ya uhifadhi na maisha baadaye ya watu.
Sababu tulipata elimu ya ujasiriamali, tukaanzisha mradi wa mizinga, tukapata elimu ya sisi wenyewe kupandisha mizinga na kupakua sisi wenyewe na kuhifadhi mali na kutafutia soko.
Now people have more options for their livelihoods.
Kwa ujumla tunaamini tukiwekeza katika elimu, kujenga uwezo na uhifadhi ni nguzo muhimu kwa vijana wa sasa na wa kesho.
Is very crucial to ensuring the future of people and wildlife in these landscapes. We need you to get involved in this program so that we can expand into other areas of northern Tanzania.
This is a model with global significance. African People and Wildlife's vision is to quadruple our reach over the next decade, positively impacting tens of thousands more wildlife and the people they live among. To do this, we'll share our unique model of community-driven conservation with more and more partners across Africa, while continuing to expand our effective on-the-ground conservation efforts in Tanzania. If we can make sure that local communities are well positioned to protect Africa's wildest landscapes for both people and wildlife, then we will have done our job well. It's a legacy we all can be proud of.
So this is where it started, with a guy like this one. This is Alaraikuni. He is in the Maasai language named the leader, and we believe he's leading the return of the lions in the Tarangire ecosystem. But he lives in a landscape where 92% of the land is inhabited also by people. So in the areas that we work, we have very small protected areas like Tarangire and Lake Manyara National Park, and a wide range of landscape where the wildlife is moving outside of these protected areas to actually calve outside on the communal lands. And our goal is really to find the balance for communities and nature in those landscapes, finding those win-win scenarios where both people and wildlife can thrive. It's a key part of our work, is that every single program that we have has both a win for wildlife and a win for communities. In order to do our work, we made a strategic decision about 15 years ago to base our organization 100% in the field. What this has meant is that every single member of our team understands what it is to live among a rural community. They understand the dialogue, and this is so absolutely critical to our success, that you turn the conversation around and you begin to understand why local people would want to protect their environments. Stop talking so much about lions and talk about why local people would want to protect the natural resources. And then you start to come together as a group and really understand how one can move forward collectively for conservation across a large landscape. Again, this is some of our team. We're over 100 strong. We have 37 full-time team members, but then we have community volunteers and monitors across northern Tanzania. So we're a team about over 125 strong at the moment. And we're working across a large landscape of about 10,000 square miles, 6 different landscapes, including the Tarangire ecosystem, and this is where we live at our Ngorongoro Environmental Center, but also the corridor between Tarangire and Lake Manyara, a corridor up towards Lake Natron, the Ngorongoro Valley, the Lake Natron Wildlife Management Area, West Kilimanjaro, and this is for some of you that are familiar with Amboseli and Cynthia Moss's incredible work. Amboseli is just on the other side there. And then, of course, the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, which is Tanzania's unique experiment in coexistence. It's over 8,000 square kilometers in size and has over 80,000 inhabitants as well of Maasai descent. So over the last 15 years, what we've been really working on is this model of community-driven conservation. This probably looks really boring, but it's absolutely the key to our success, is how you do your work. Not so much what you do, but how you engage with the communities. How do you approach the dialogue? Do you turn that conversation around and really understand from the local point of view why people would want to protect their wildlife, their natural resources? And then once you begin to have that dialogue and you begin to understand the ways that people are talking about the environment, do you have some sort of strategy for engaging? Because we've seen a lot in the community conservation world. There's a lot of really good-hearted, well-meaning work, but it doesn't always have a strategy associated with it. And so for us at African People and Wildlife, we've developed a 4-step process. We start working with preventing conflict, helping people to alleviate conflict with wildlife, particularly big cats. We then begin to build a dialogue, build a relationship, and start working on building capacity to protect natural resources. We recognized, though, that just training and education wasn't really leading to real change on the ground. We're working in very rurally impoverished communities. Access to resources is limited. And so step 3 in our process of supporting active environmental management on the ground came into play through small grants that we give to communities and partnerships that we develop with various communities that we're working with. And then step number 4, if you can encapsulate this all around some form of sustainability, enterprise, a reason why people themselves want to improve their livelihoods in a way that also supports the environment, then you've captured that long-term goal of sustainability. So this is what we've been working on for a number of years. We've been refining it, reworking it. We just articulated it, and now we're looking to scale this up across northern Tanzania and other areas. And it's a data-driven approach. So going back to my colleague, Karithi, as we move from science to applied conservation, we still bring with us our background as a social ecologist and a wildlife ecologist. So everything we do at African People and Wildlife is monitored. We have for a relatively small organization, we have a relatively large monitoring and evaluation team that's constantly looking under the hood to make sure we're having the outcomes that we're looking for. And we have a number of different programs, our Warriors for Wildlife, that are out across northern Tanzania. There are local communities monitoring conflict with wildlife, with particularly big cats, and helping to install our living walls. There's more than 1,000 of them now across northern Tanzania. Community members invest 25% of the cost of a living wall, which is basically just a combination of a growing living tree with chain link fencing. It's an incredibly sustainable approach that was developed in partnership with the Maasai community, and that's why it's just spread like wildfire across northern Tanzania, because people view it as their own innovation. And then we realized that just preventing conflict wasn't going to get us to our end goal of a sustainable future for both people and wildlife. We also had to save space for big cats, and we had to save space for people as well. And so we began our Sustainable Rangelands Initiative, which is, again, working with community members to understand why would they want to protect these pastures that are utilized by both people, by livestock, and also by large, wide-ranging wildlife populations. And it was really just about reinvigorating traditional systems that had been in place for many, many years and have just been eroded over time for various reasons. And so what we do is sort of reinvigorate the traditional monitoring systems of the grasslands, working with volunteer community rangeland monitors who are now monitoring the quality of the grassland every month and making active decisions about the utilization of those pastures as they see the data come in, and working with their village committees to make good decisions, and particularly in a year like this when we're heading into a severe drought in Tanzania, this kind of work is absolutely critical to ensure the livelihoods of the people that are so dependent on their cattle. And we've seen in the areas where groups are actively implementing this program that we've seen we can monitor again increased grass heights, reduced bare ground, return of interesting species to the grasslands as people themselves take up the management of their rangelands. And then if we can, again, wrap that all around and incorporate a piece around sustainable enterprise, giving people a reason, again, to protect their environment, because now it is, again, intimately associated with their future. We realized with our programs, many of our programs were focusing on men. We wanted to work with also the women in the Maasai community. It's a very male-dominated society. We wanted to have a way to also help give the women voice. And so we've been working on a beekeeping initiative. We work with 77 women's groups across northern Tanzania, about 1,260 women now empowered through this program to start up their own beekeeping enterprises. We give them small micro grants that help them to purchase a certain number of hives and bee suits, and then begin their beekeeping business with continuing training and education and entrepreneurship, and to help them get that honey then to market. The women have harvested over 5 tons of honey so far, and have been able to sell it both locally and also in markets in Arusha and other places. And so the win for wildlife in this piece is that everywhere the women hang their hives in the wild bush, the Tanzanian policy doesn't allow for the cutting of the tree or for any cultivation in the vicinity of the hive. So again, we're getting that double win, a win for wildlife because we're now protecting habitat that both the livestock and the wildlife utilize outside of the protected areas, but we're also getting a win for the women who are now able to engage more in an economic sense in their communities. And what they find is that this also empowers them in a different way, that men are beginning to see these women differently in their communities, and they are having a voice beyond their just traditional household roles. They're beginning to be respected more, and they're beginning to speak out more in their village councils and really get behind the environmental movement that now they are so invested in. And of course, we also invest in tomorrow's leaders. Like Krithi said, it's absolutely critical that we get behind the youth of today. Having lived in Tanzania for 20 years, some of the kids, when I was doing my preliminary research at Yale, that were going by my car while I was doing my research, they're young leaders today. So we've got to get in there as soon as we can, because these are the future decision makers, and they're out there making decisions now. So we do things like environmental camps and wildlife clubs, and the kids that really progress the best in our programs get 6-year scholarships to a private secondary school, and now we even have some of our first university students studying medicine and rangeland management, actually. So it's a really exciting, all-encompassing program. Our skill is at bringing it all together, really understanding that conservation across these systems requires quite a lot of different strategies at once, all working together to really develop a long-term sustainable plan for people and wildlife. Some of the things we're working on just going forward, we're really excited that we'll be launching a Women in Conservation internship. We were asked today to talk a little bit about the challenges that we face, and I, as a woman in conservation and a CEO, I'm often one of the only women in the room when we're having decision-making meetings. We'd like to see more Tanzanian women leaders rising up through the chain of command, and so we're going to start this Women in Conservation internship to help women get access to our programs, but then develop a system for promoting them in their careers as they move along, wherever that may be in Tanzania. We do want to quadruple our programmatic impact over the next 10 years. We're developing a very exciting 2030 vision, so we'll be sharing more of that in the coming year. And as a result, we're seeing lion populations rebound. So this was the first year we were able to actually confidently state that the Tarangire lion population is now showing signs of recovery as a result of these efforts that the community members have done, that we as an organization have done, and that other partners have contributed to. We are bringing these lions back in a system where they're also living alongside humans, and those human communities are also thriving in there as well. And so the future, that was Alaraikuni, the future of his progeny is positive right now. Conservation is hills and valleys, so we're in a really great spot right now. We don't know what's the next challenge that's come to us, but we're very confident that our team is extremely innovative and capable of addressing these holistic issues in conservation today. And if we continue to do that, and we do that as a global community, then our long-term goal is really a world in balance, that we all consider how important balance is to us all in our lives, balance in the environment, balance in our home, balance in so many different ways. And if we really embrace this notion of balance, then there's so many incredible things that we can all do to better our world for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Speak with all the fellows again. So if there's one question from the audience, we can take that.
Hi, I'm just wondering why you chose Tanzania, and why don't people there and lions and wildlife there just coexist naturally?
I don't know if I chose Tanzania or if Tanzania chose me. But I originally began my work in Kenya, and I love Kenya very much, but I managed to cross the border on a small trip and just was blown away by the nature that still is available in Tanzania. And it's quite an incredible country in terms of the size of the populations, the size of the wild space. But you know, the population is increasing. You know, there's 50 million people in a country 1.5 times the size of Texas. So that does put people and wildlife more and more into pressure. People's livelihoods are changing, their goals are changing, you know, and as they get shrunk and closer in, wildlife and people come into conflict. Again, it also goes back to the fact that, you know, many of these spaces require that the wildlife move out of the protected areas for 50% of the year. So that conflict, that, you know, running into each other is inevitable. And so our goal is really just to help define that balance and to find a way to, you know, help as population grows, to help communities actually reserve land for protection for livestock and wildlife in an effort to ensure that as the population grows, there are still reserved grazing lands that are secure for both the people's livelihoods and the wildlife. And we think that's really absolutely critical in this time in Tanzania's history and where it's going for conservation.